If you're going to go ahead and record, please feel free. All right. So this is the third, and we are going to go over the top 10 common mistakes new managers and managers who forget, frankly. But first off, we're going to talk about the book. Optional reading. No reason for you to buy the book because I'm about to tell you all the good stuff that's in it, so you don't care. Colvin wrote a book called Talent is Overrated. Let me give you the ins and outs of what he says. There's a little yes, a little no to this in my mind. What makes someone good, right? So some people say it's hard work. Some people say it's something innate, a talent that you're born with. He says it's deliberate practice, right? So he wrote an entire book and made a ridiculous amount of money by stretching practice makes perfect into a management forum. And that's really all he did, let's be honest about it. So there are 7 lessons that are covered in the book. I'm going to run through each of them with you. And there is some truth here. I mean, it's absolutely worth hearing. I just don't think it's worth buying the book because, believe me, these 7 things, you've read the book. Lesson 1, exceptional talent is a function of hard work over time. Again, that's practice makes perfect. Lesson 2, there's a blueprint you can follow to get talented, which again is practicing. Lesson 3 is you can develop talent or expertise in any discipline. Yeah, that's also true. You may not be one of the greatest at it, but you can certainly develop expertise. Developing talent is hard work. Color me shocked. I don't think that surprises anyone. Lesson 5, you can use the blueprint of hard work and guided practice as a teaching tool. Very true. You want to teach your team to practice as much as you do. That's fine. Lesson 6, you don't have to get to virtuoso level to outrank your competitors, which is a really, really fancy way of saying the exact same thing I told you last week, which, you don't have to be exceptional. You just have to be better than everybody else. And as most people are average, not a big hill to climb. Lesson 7, those who only read don't improve. Those who implement grow and thrive. Well, that's true, actually. That's probably the most true thing that is in this entire book. When we were talking last week, I mentioned grow. What's your goal? What's the reality? What are the options? What's the way ahead? As a technique both for you to work through things, but more importantly, to teach your team so that everybody works in one consistent fashion and speaks in one consistent fashion. If you don't practice that, it does you no good. It's just 4 key letters and we move on with our lives. So it's true. If you don't really work on it, it doesn't do anything for you. So again, this whole book is practice makes perfect. There are a lot of truths in it, specifically around the fact that you have to diligently do it every day and you have to do it for a while. But as half the people here are either in martial arts or they play guitar or they do some sort of artistic endeavor, everybody here knows that. Anybody can learn to play the guitar. You may not become Eddie Van Halen, but with enough practice and enough discipline, an amazing thing happens in the mind. Neural pathways develop. New ways of thinking actually occur. And if you do it long enough, these pathways become ingrained. You can get somebody that's played the guitar when they were 15, if they were any reasonable skill level at all. You can give them a guitar at 50. It'll take them a second. Their hands will get tired quickly, but they can do basic 3-chord riff like that. You literally have developed something new in your brain, but it is required that you do it constantly, consistently, and for a certain period of time. Read longer the better. So quite right. So anyway, he made a ton of money off this. I'm actually kind of impressed. We work on management. We have to. You have to think these things. You have to pay attention to your teams. You're not their friend. You're the person helping. That isn't always in a positive manner, but you're one helping the best interests of the team. And it is good to practice these things. So I guess this whole book, I look at it as a phrase I heard a long time ago. You guys have probably heard it too. The best time to plant a tree, 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree, today. It's an old Chinese proverb. What it really comes down to is if you're going to practice and you're going to work on your management skills and work on your management techniques, really take it seriously, start now. Do it consistently. That's actually the whole book. Believe me, I just saved you $22 because all the rest of it is filler and not even really good filler, frankly. All right, let's go through the lecture. We're going to go over 10 common mistakes of new managers. I bet I've seen half of these every year from somebody, not necessarily on my team, but somebody in the organization or somebody in another organization. I guarantee you, as I go through them, you'll go, I saw so-and-so do that. Whether it's your team or not, it happens all the time. So let's talk about them. Is this the right one? I think it is. Huh. Yep, this is it. Looks black to me. All right, number one. And everything I'm going to write, at least the first part of it, is a mistake. So let's keep that straight, right? The know-it-all. I've never really understood this one. But it seems like sometimes when people take over teams, they suddenly decide that they and they alone know what to do. Part of it, of course, is the fact that they were probably very good at doing the thing, hence why we did that horrible thing to them and promoted them. But for some reason, when you put some people in charge, their immediate assumption is they and they alone know the right thing to do. Really not your job as a leader, really not your job as a manager. My job isn't to be the expert. My job is to create the expert. My job is to raise the level of my team such that they can make those decisions, not me. So create experts is the answer to the know-it-all. All right. Number two, and I probably see this one more than any other. I'm going to put some quotes around this, and I'm going to write, I'm in charge here. You know the one. Hey, I'm the boss. That's why we're going to do this. I make comments like that all the time, but they're generally self-deprecating, and I'm just having fun at people's expense, to be honest with you. I never actually walk in a room and say I'm in charge. First off, I shouldn't have to. If somebody doesn't know me, hi, I'm Wayne. We should probably meet sometime. But you don't have to walk around thumping your chest, constantly saying I'm in charge. It's almost like a new manager, through insecurity, sometimes reminds his team that he's the boss. This is self-defeating. It doesn't do you any good. Again, everybody on your team, I promise you, they already know who you are. Well, and if not, then we have a bigger issue, to be frank. This is just a sign of insecurity, and people recognize it as such. You'll find managers from time to time who say this, some of them who work for you. You need to coach these people away. What they're supposed to be doing is focus on trust, not the top. I shouldn't have to tell anybody I'm the boss. I should be working on you trusting me. This does nothing to engender trust. It does the exact opposite. No one trusts anybody who walks around doing this, okay? Pretty common thing. The other two that I'm going to go through right now, a little less often, but you see it only at the very beginning. It rarely happens any other time. And this is change all the things is number three. And number four, because we're going these two, they're basically opposites to each other, is change nothing. So this is when you put somebody new in charge. You'll get people that will just feel like we're going to wreck everything and start over and create all brand new processes, and everything you guys have ever done in your life is wrong. You're all wrong, and I'm going to fix everything. If I find that person in your organization, I generally don't even give them a chance. All right? You need to be very strong on this one. You can't walk up to a group of people who have, for all practical purposes, generally been succeeding reasonably well and tell them that every baby they have is ugly. You simply can't. This is a terribly negative thing. This other one is more polite, but it's pure insecurity. Change nothing. Well, I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to lead the team. Before we make any radical changes, I'm going to take my time to get to know the team. You know, that's fine for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. I'm starting to wonder why I pay you. 5 weeks, what the heck are you doing? 6 weeks, you're on a written corrective action plan. I mean, there's a happy medium between these two that you guys need to find, and you need to find with your teams. Basically, Don't worry about changing or not changing. Just be responsible for improvement. I really don't care if the process stays the same. I don't care if the same person's in charge. What I care about is when I come in, I can see measurable, demonstrative improvement. There's probably something that needs improvement, or you wouldn't have been brought in. You wouldn't have put somebody in charge of a team if there wasn't something that needed to be improved. So focus on seeing improvement. Don't worry about changing too much. Don't worry about changing too little. Be outcome oriented. Either one of these is a mistake. All right. Number 5. Here's another mistake that you see every now and then. Don't get to know your team. I know some of you are going to assume I'm going to do the opposite, which is get too close to your team. That one should be so obvious that I shouldn't have to bring it up. But the plain fact of the matter is that's generally not a problem that most managers have. They usually know the folks. A lot of times they're brought up from them. It's new managers, somebody who's brought in from the outside, that you usually see this. Don't get to know the team. And what I'm really talking about is know them as people, all right? You are not playing chess. In no way, shape, or form, or fashion are the people on this team pieces that you move around because you're so incredibly smart. They're human beings, and you need to recognize their needs as human beings. You have to start thinking through the fact that so-and-so has been working for 3 weekends straight. So-and-so just got married. So-and-so just had a kid. So-and-so's mother was just in the hospital. You have to pay attention to these things. I'm not saying you're going to be everybody's best friend. That's simply not going to happen. It's not necessarily that you can't be. I will tell you that it's hard to be, and it's certainly almost impossible to do it with everyone. But the plain fact of the matter is you need to understand the human needs of your team. And if you're not paying attention to that, if you're too focused only on seeing this one as a DA, this one as a database administrator, this one as a, you're going to fail. You're absolutely going to fail as a boss. You've got to remember their needs, right? Now, don't talk. Don't tell. The higher up you go in an organization, the more likely you are to see this one. All right. So by the time you're a senior vice president somewhere, promise you will have run into this. This is when you take somebody and you put them in charge of a team, things aren't going well, and they don't say anything to you. They just, like generally a new manager doesn't want to admit they're failing. They don't want to discuss the fact that they're having trouble, that they can't seem to get along with Bob, that Jimmy didn't turn this in, that Janet didn't even show up today, that whatever the concerns are on a team, they don't tell you about because they want to feel like you feel like they're doing well. They want you to have faith in them, so they don't bring these things up. This is a screaming mistake. I have a rule, which is no surprises. I don't care what happens. I don't want to be surprised. I dang sure don't want to be surprised by my boss. If Chad hears something before I know about it, I'm going to have a problem with that. Not that I don't think anybody can talk to Chad. Good luck with that. You're welcome to. He's a very busy guy. If you can get on his calendar, more power to you. Recognize he is busy. Wouldn't suggest it. But there's nothing that I'm not going to be transparent about with him anyway. What I don't want is to him to hear something, and I don't. What you don't want is for someone on your team to come tell me about a thing that you weren't aware of. And if they're not talking to you because they're afraid of looking like they're brand new or making mistakes or whatever, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's already happened here. Well, not recently, mind you, but when I first got here, oh yeah, I heard all sorts of things that the people who reported to me didn't bring up to me. I didn't find out till later. I was grateful to hear them, but the communication was obviously broken somewhere. It should have been fixed. I'm very proud to say that in the last 9-12 months, roughly, it hasn't happened, not in this last year. So I'm feeling pretty good about that. But this one is always scary. Your job is to coach your leaders, is to coach their people, is to coach their people. You owe me the chance to do my job too. If there's something going on that isn't going on right, you owe it to me to tell it to me, because I owe it to you to help you, to coach you through it. If there's a problem with an employee, if somebody needs to be separated, if someone isn't performing up to snuff, you don't have to think about it just to yourself. Come talk to me about it. That's what I'm here for. Happy to have the conversation, happy to support you 150%. You're going to need to be able to do that. Oh, look, it changed on it. It was interesting. You're going to be able to need to do the same thing that for your team members, and make sure they know it. They owe you the chance to coach them. All right, 7. I think I'm on 7, aren't I? Yes. Avoiding a problem. When I say a problem here, I hate to say this, but I'm saying a problem person. In management, it's really only going to be political, fiscal, or people, right? Those are the 3 things you have, right? New managers often miss this. If someone's a problem, they're pulling against the team, and you can't coach them out of it, I need you to understand that every single person on your team is watching. And what you do in this matter is going to change the morale of your entire organization. It's going to change your ability to hit your deadlines. It's going to change your ability to get raises. It's going to change your ability to backfill. Everything is going to be affected by the fact that you've got one person on your team who isn't doing what they're supposed to do. If you can't coach them up, and I expect you to go to your boss, I expect you to come to me. If you can't coach them up, you occasionally have to make a very hard decision, which is to coach them out. Has to happen. If you don't, what happens is the people who work the hardest on your team start feeling unappreciated. They work so hard. This guy does that and he gets away with it and I'm still here. These are things that are natural to human nature. It doesn't matter how sweet, wonderful, awesome, and kind human beings they are. This is going to happen. Human nature will win. Your best performers start feeling resentful. Your mid-level performers say, nothing happened to him. Why should I work so hard? B players become C players. Your C players already don't care. Your entire organization will drop. If you've got one person who's not pulling his weight, who isn't doing what he or she is supposed to be doing, you need to talk to her, you need to talk to him. You got to manage them up or you manage them out. Don't wait. Can't say that's strong enough. You're focused on the team, not one person. You've got to keep that in mind. You're here to save everyone's job, not one person's job, and that's your job as a leader. Next up, 8, humility. Missing. Now, unless you basically got my personality of constantly cracking jokes, which probably I should rein that in a little bit, but the fact of the matter is I don't know anybody in my direct team that isn't humble. I'm grateful for that. I'm proud of that. All the folks that report directly to me, none of them walk up and beat their chest unless they're just kidding, right? I've never heard anything serious. Humility missing is a real problem. This is pride. Hey, I got promoted and I'm this and I'm that and, I can do nothing wrong. And I remember a guy at a previous company, he had been there, 15 years, and he had made director all the way up from a call center agent. I'm not kidding. All the way from a call center agent to a director. They made him a senior director. Yeah, thank you, Art. They made him, he just came by and did that to me. They made him a senior director. They were talking about making him a vice president. And he came to talk to me. And what did I think on this and that he was doing? And I went, yeah, it's pretty good. He goes, well, I've been here 15 years. You don't have success for 15 years if you don't know what you're doing. And I'm listening to him. I thought he was kidding at first. He wasn't. I said, the best thing that can happen for you and this company is if you quit or get fired. Because you've learned one way to do it, and you've learned all there is about it, and you're not willing to learn anything else. You really think you're that cool. You're not. There's other people that know different ways to do things, and you frankly need to be exposed to it. I don't think he ever forgave me for telling him that for a couple of years. He did wind up leaving. He's a vice president now at one of our major competitors, and he sent me a note thanking me. It was the best thing that he could have done. I've done that for several people, told them to quit when it was time to go, So humility. If it's missing, if you think you know everything, your worldview is too small. And you need to watch for people like that. That kind of a boss over one of your teams will destroy them. They will take credit for the work that everybody else does, and they will shift blame for anything bad. You can't really afford this person on your team, and you need to watch for it. All right, 9, don't forget ever to protect your team. My handwriting is awful. I really don't even know why I bother. This happens a lot more than you would think. I was one of my previous companies. I remember distinctly there was a person that worked there that the minute anybody complained about anything, they sent an angry note to their team screaming and hollering. It was instant. It was guaranteed. If somebody complained, they would go and yell at their team. That's not appropriate. It may be that your team did something wrong. It may be that discipline needed to happen in one form or another, but that shouldn't be your knee-jerk reaction. Your knee-jerk reaction should be to take care of your team. Watch for that. It happens a lot, especially when people are busy or tired. Finally, the last one, I'm going to talk about the coach's credo, which I'm sure you guys have heard under different names, the coach's credo. And that's when the team does well, praise the team. When something goes poorly, you, as a coach, take responsibility for it. You don't blame your team. I've heard a lot of blaming the team in my lifetime. Not a lot here. It's actually one of the reasons that this place, I frankly like it. There's not a lot of blaming the team. But I've heard a lot in my career, and you need to watch for that. When they go well, you'll have this person stand up and say, yeah, I did a good job. And when they go poorly, they go, Janet, what were you thinking? You can't be that person. When your team succeeds, they succeed. When your team does poorly, that was your problem as a coach. So these are the top 10 mistakes. I will tell you this. If you find a new manager, you're going to see these every now and then. And you should be able to work through them with them. But I need you guys to understand that when you're tired, when you're exhausted, these things come back. You never beat them. They come back. If you're not doing your reset every now and then, if you're not really thinking through, if you're not practicing, have you taught your people to GROW, grow yet? You should have. If you haven't, get on it. If you're not practicing these, they come back every now and then. You will turn around and realize that in a moment of anger and frustration, you let people know you were in charge. You're not doing it right. Think it through. Any one of these can mess you up. I always look, and again, we're nautical, right? You can't take your eyes off the sail. If you do, if the wind changes directions, you have to start tacking. This is a constant thing not to fall into these. So it's not just a new manager. It's us old managers too. Next week, we're going to talk about effective delegation. This is when we're starting to get into a little bit more advanced stuff. And we're going to look at, I think, Crazy Bosses, which is a pretty cool book. Again, I'm going to give you the download. You don't have to read it if you don't want to, but if you want to, it's actually not a bad book at all. All right. Thank you very much. See you next week.